All right, final review part 2, lesson 4.6, number 14. $3,000 invested in a bank account at an interest rate of 8% per year. Find the amount in the bank account after 5 years if the interest is compounded annually. We'll do it again 5 years for quarterly and monthly. So we need the compound interest formula for this. And if it's not already in that final share your work, somebody ought to put this in there. So it says the future amount is going to be equal to the present amount times 1 plus the rate divided by the number of times you get interest per year, raised to the power the number of times you get interest per year times the number of years. So just a reminder about what each of these are. This is our future value. And this is our present value or principal. It's a funny looking E. And then R is our APR, annual rate, as a decimal. Oops. N is the number of times per year we get interest. And then T is the total number of years that go by. So the first problem, we were asked to compound annually, so that means N is going to be equal to 1. In the second one, we're asked to do quarterly. There's 4 quarters in a year, so N would be 4. And then for the last one, we're asked to do monthly, so N would be equal to 12. And so let's call these parts A, B, and C to keep them straight. So for part A, switch colors. My future value would be that $3,000 times 1 plus 8% as a decimal, which would be 0.08, divided by 1. Now, dividing by 1 is kind of boring. We can skip that, but I'll put it in there. And then we'll raise it to the power 1 times 5. And again, multiplying by 1 is kind of boring. We could skip it, but that's what the formula says, so I'm going to write it down. And then we just whip out a calculator and see what that gives us. So let's make sure you guys are all good with your calculators. What happens if you plug that into a calculator? What do you get? If you could put that in the chat, I'd greatly appreciate it. Calculator. I'm going to go with Desmos mostly today, I think. I use it on my phone often. So we've got 3,000 times parentheses 1 plus 0.08 over 1, and then arrow over to close the parentheses in the right spot. We need the power button. In Desmos, you don't have to put it in parentheses. So I could just type 1 times 5. Oh, no, I lied. I guess I do. Desmos jumped out on me. Maybe my phone behaves different. 5. Okay, so I lied accidentally. So yeah, be safe, put it in parentheses. So we want to make sure that 1 times 5 is in the power. If the 5 jumps out of the power, we have a problem. So I'm getting $4,407, and to the nearest cent would be 98 cents. We'll double check the instructions. Let's see. It doesn't say, so I would go to the nearest cent. So 4,407.98. Same idea for the next one, but we just compound quarterly. So for part B, our future value is going to be pretty similar, except for that 4 that's going to sneak in 2 places. So 1 plus 0.08 over 4 raised to the power 4 times 5. 5 years, 4 times a year. And the interest gets broken up into 4 pieces. So we get a smaller interest, but more often. That should be better off. Let's try it in a calculator. And I should have more money than I did before because I'm getting interest more often. And on my version of Desmos, I had to put the power in parentheses. And Desmos says I get about almost 50 bucks more. That's pretty cool. So 4,457.84. So please double check that you can use your calculator well and get the same amount, because on the test, it's up to you to do that right. There is no second chance. If you have a problem with that, let me know. Make sure you round correctly. That looks good. Next part, we compound monthly. So in that case, n is 12. So for what I'm calling part C, my future amount is going to be 3,000 times 1 plus 0.08 over 12, close parentheses, raised to the power, parentheses on some calculators, 12 times 5. And it's important that the 12 times 5 is all in the power. If one of those numbers slips out, then everything goes to hell. Thousand times 1 plus 0.08, 8% is a decimal, split into 12 pieces for 12 months in a year, and then raise that to the power 12 times 5, because we get interest 12 times a year for 5 years. And it's a little bit better, $12 better than the quarterly. So I'm ending up with $4,469.54 is how I would round that. Again, make sure that you can get a similar value on your calculator. Make sure we typed it right and rounded correctly, so always double check. And you should write that on your paper in addition to typing it into the little box there. Questions on using the compound interest formula? So either there's no questions or somebody's a slow typer.
Do you need to round it to the nearest, like, cent?
Yeah, in this case, I'm rounding to the nearest cent because it didn't say to do otherwise. Sometimes the fine print will say something else, but when, let's see, in the top it doesn't say, here it doesn't say, and when I click on the box and click more, it doesn't say anything about rounding. So this is dollars, so I would do dollars and cents.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next question.